Hey guys, welcome to 716 Sports Entertainment Podcast Monday Night Raw review. And we've got new tag team champions on Monday Night Raw. The Usos defeated the team of AJ Styles and Dragon Lee to capture the Raw tag team titles. What are they called? The World Tag Team titles? Just the WWE tag team titles? Whatever they're called. The Usos have recaptured those titles and are now nine-time tag team champions. And this was kind of one of the bigger moments of a very packed Monday Night Raw, which we're going to get into and break it all down. So, as always, welcome to our podcast. I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Sean O'Neill. And Sean, how do we feel about Monday Night Raw as a whole? We got new tag team champs and a bunch of other things that happened.
So I think the titles are actually called the WWE Tag Team titles that actually get defended, and unlike the SmackDown ones. But I, I don't know. I honestly thought that this was a pre-recorded show going into it, so I'm not gonna lie. I was thoroughly excited that it was not pre-taped, especially after last week being taped. But I think overall, for the last show in the, as you would say, in the year of our Lord Vince McMahon, it was not bad at all.
Yeah, I'm completely with you on that. It was really I'm on the fence about like whether or not it was a good move to put those tag team titles onto the Usos. Um, but I think it allows for AJ Styles and probably Dragon Lee to go on to do other things as we saw in this show and as we've been kind of building towards. So let's talk about that first, and then we'll kind of break down the rest of the show because as I noted, this was a pretty eventful show. So yeah, the Usos obviously that was the main event of the show. It was like they gave them a good amount of time, probably like 30, 35 minutes to go. And the Usos obviously won with the 1D to pin Dragon Lee to take home those tag titles. It's a good match. I mean, Styles was able to hit the Styles Clash for a near fall on Jimmy, which looked awesome. AJ Styles is just phenomenal in the ring. He looks so good. And overall I was just pleased with the way this went down. I mean, this match kept me on my toes from start to finish. I kind of had a feeling with it being the main event and with, the Usos having their little promo backstage earlier in the show that they were probably going to win. So I guess let me know A, your opinions on the match, and I think B, where do we go from here?
So when Styles hit that Styles Clash on Jimmy, or not Jimmy, on Jay, I thought it was over. Like I actually thought they were retaining at this point. And honestly, personally myself, I think that they should have held it a little bit longer, let the Usos build to the chase a little bit further. I think that the fact that the Usos were willing to sort of skirt the rules during the match is something that could have been used storyline wise if they hadn't won the titles, as in what more are they willing to do to get their hands on the gold. However, I think that ultimately they took the titles off Styles and Dragon Lee so that, like you said, they can move them into other programs. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw something between Gunther and Styles sooner rather than later with the interactions the two of them have been having since Gunther retired Cena.
Yeah, I definitely think that's going to happen at some point. I just don't think, I mean, do we know how long Styles is going to be wrestling in 2026? Like, is it going to be the full year or?
He just said 2026.
I got to imagine Gunther is going to retire him. Like, I mean, we've been talking about this Legend Killer Gunther thing for a while, and I think Gunther is just like it makes sense, right? Like the seeds have already been planted for Gunther to, have a match with AJ Styles. So I kind of feel like it should be his last match, and I think that you're just turning Gunther into a bigger and bigger star if you keep having him retire people.
Maybe WrestleMania if Styles isn't planning on wrestling the whole year.
Yeah, or yeah, because I think the SummerSlam match is already penciled in for Gunther and Brock. So
Yes.
yeah, depends on how far into the year Styles is willing to go, I guess. And then as far as Dragon Lee is concerned, I would have a feeling he's probably going to get himself involved with the El Grandes. And there was a thing backstage with Styles, Javon Evans, and the El Grandes. So there'll probably be some kind of match there as well as at least for a filler thing for a little while, maybe on the next AAA show.
I'm expecting there to be some sort of six-man tag match at some point there. And be it with Javon Evans, Styles, and Dragon Lee, or Leon Slater, Javon Evans, and Dragon Lee, some form of that versus the Grande family. My bigger question out of this, besides obviously the seeds that we knew were already planted for Styles, is where do you go with the Usos?
Division.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's got to be the Vision because now that the Vision's got a fourth member, and I think this is kind of like a next moving point here, they're going to need a bunch of stuff to do. And I think that every single one of them should be involved in a title picture some way, somehow going into WrestleMania season. So I think the Usos can defend against a few folks, maybe against the New Day, however else you want to do it. The Viking War experience, Raiders, um, and whatever else. But I think eventually the match at Mania has got to be the Usos versus Bronson Reed and
Austin.
yeah, probably Austin Theory because I think Logan Paul is going to be involved in the IC title picture most likely because
That one,
it'll probably be off of Dom by then and onto somebody else, I would imagine, especially with Dom, maybe Dom's injury. So I could see Logan Paul being involved in the IC title picture along with a handful of other folks as well. I have this thought in my mind that the Raw after WrestleMania, everybody in the Vision is going to have gold. And that is when Seth is going to return.
I could see that. I mean, there's a bunch of Vision stuff that we have to talk about tonight because there's some interesting new people being added to the mix, which we'll talk about eventually. But as far as the title portion of it, I think I agree. However, I think the Dom thing, depending on how long his injury is, because I know they said indefinitely for now, and usually that's not a good sign. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets stripped of both titles that he has, and there is some sort of like tournament that Logan Paul makes it to the finals of at WrestleMania.
Oh, I don't know if it's going to go that long. I
Depends on, they might try to wait a little while for Dom to see if he can come back first before they
yeah.
strip him.
Yeah, maybe. I just don't think they wait until WrestleMania to not have somebody be the IC champion. But I mean, you could be right. I mean, you could do a tournament. WWE is good at tournaments, or you could just also do a multi-person ladder match at WrestleMania as well.
So I know we don't always talk extremely highly of WWE's competition in AEW, but one thing that I think they've done really well, and I wouldn't mind seeing them do for the Intercontinental title, is how AEW runs the Continental Classic. I think that would be a really interesting kind of tournament to do for the IC title, where you do like a points based system.
For our audience that doesn't watch WC, I mean AEW, could you explain how that works?
So basically, AEW, I wouldn't do it quite the same because AEW does it with two brackets, where I think there's eight people per bracket, and they have a series of matches against each other. Where if you win, you earn I think 3 points. A draw earns you two, and a loss earns you none. And at the end, the people with the most points get into a final four type situation where it just happened this past weekend at AEW World's End, where it was John Moxley versus Kyle Fletcher and Okada versus Takeshita. And then the winners of those matches face off in the finals for the belt. And I think that that is absolutely a type of tournament idea that WWE could sort of modify to work in their favor. And I think it could be really fun too. You come up with a maybe a 12-person bracket and have them have matches against each other through it. And think about some of the fun matches you could have.
Oh yeah, for sure. There's a ton of guys that could be involved in that picture. I mean, I'm thinking of Rusev, I'm thinking of Finn Balor, I'm thinking of JD McDonough, I'm thinking of
Penta.
yeah, Penta, maybe
Obama
returning,
Femi.
yeah, maybe returning Chad Gable, Trick Williams. So yeah, I'm thinking of a lot of guys who could be involved in that. And we did see Trick and we saw Trick on the show and we saw an Oba vignette. So it seems very likely that Oba is going to be dropping the NXT title sooner rather than later. And Trick is just going to probably be, I would imagine Trick is probably just in the Royal Rumble and then will be on Raw kind of going forward, I think, after that.
So I can't imagine they're all going to go to Raw. I have to imagine at least one of them's probably going to go to SmackDown. I could see it maybe being Obama Femi, but I think that honestly, it's a real quick tangent here. I think with him, they should do what they did with Owens and have him come up to the main roster while still holding the NXT title.
That could be cool.
Yeah, because that's what Owens did when Owens first came up. Is he was still the NXT champion.
Yeah, I could certainly see them doing that. And then that actually would be a way to like, if you told the story properly, that would actually be a way to not only like make him look like a really big deal because you could have him defending on like all shows and just like, he eventually just gets so beaten down, that that's how he loses it because he has so many people coming at him from every direction, and it would really
Yep.
make him look like a powerhouse killer, which would be pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, that would be
Honest.
interesting. I like that idea.
Yeah. So you heard it here first. A couple cool ideas that we're WWE. Give us a call.
Fantasy booking. So the show proper opened up with a vision flanked by Paul Heyman and officially welcoming Austin Theory into the group. Heyman did scold the crowd for chanting CM Punk and making fun of his intro again, which is always funny. He said that the future is this group, and this is the group that's going to be main eventing WrestleManias for time to come. This was obviously interrupted by CM Punk, and it had a really good promo segment between Punk and Bron Breakker once it eventually got going. And Bron Breakker, talked about how he is, how he's all the adversity he had to go through to get to where he was, just, talking about his last name and how he wasn't just handed everything and how he really made it for himself because, he's just the, baddest MFer in the locker room. And then Punk went on to basically kind of counter that a little bit to really say that, he is not ready to give up the title, not ready to let it go. And, while he knows that they're not the same, ultimately he is CM Punk and he's still the best in the world and he's not going to give up anytime soon. So I enjoyed this promo segment. It definitely was a good, pretty typical, atypical WWE go home promo segment for a big title match that's coming up on a PLE level event, if you will, next week. So I was fine with it. And I enjoyed this, and I'm very much looking forward to their match next week. I'm not really quite sure how it's going to end yet. I still feel like Punk is probably going to retain. But either way, I think it's going to be must-watch TV next week. I'm really looking forward to Raw next week.
I think that this was the best promo they've had between Punk and Breaker, and I'm glad that they actually did something besides just Breaker standing tall over Punk. And I really like you said, Breaker talking about how he's more than just his name and how he had to fight against the fact that he already had that sort of expectation of him because of who his father and his uncle are. And then I really also liked Punk talking about how he didn't think that Breaker was ready to carry the weight of the strap and not so much the physical weight of the strap, but everything that comes along with being a WWE champion, a CM Punk, a Roman Reigns, a Cody Rhodes, all of this, the extra stuff, and the fact that you are not just representing yourself, but you're representing everybody in that locker room. You're representing that entire company. And it takes a special kind of person to be able to not buckle under that weight. And then for Punk to end it more or less selfishly with the fact that he's not ready to give it up. I enjoyed that because keep in mind too, when Punk first came back, his very first promo, he flat out said, "I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to win titles and make money."
Yeah, yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And like I said, I think it's going to be a barn burner next week, Monday. I'm really looking forward to it. Um, So this show also saw, which I was surprised that this wasn't going to be next week, but I guess you can't have too much on that show. It did see Stephanie Becker defeat Nikki Bella and Raquel Rodriguez via pinfall to retain the Women's World Championship. Um, I had no doubt in my mind that Stephanie was going to win here, and my hope is now that her and Nikki Bella are done. But again, I gotta say, I'm so impressed with Raquel. I think Raquel was the star of this match, and they really did everything they could to make her look like $1 million. I mean, obviously Stephanie's the champion, and you want to make her look good, but I think both of them went above and beyond to make Raquel look like a powerhouse because she did very much seem going into this match like she was the third wheel. But I think they did everything they could to alleviate that, and that power bomb move she did on both of them off the top rope toward the end of the match was really friggin' cool.
So hopefully, like we've talked about, this is the end of this particular rivalry for Vickers' belt. I think that obviously they planted some more seeds for dissension with the Judgment Day before the match, which they need to do with Dom out and JD McDonough out. But I think you're right. Raquel was 100% the star of this match. And for the fact that not even a year ago, everybody was giving her shit for not being that good. She has fully embraced this like diesel type role and everything that comes with that. The powerhouse who used to be overlooked as the um like bodyguard type character coming into their own. And I got to give credit to Nikki too. She didn't botch really. She made the moves that she needed to, and hopefully, if anything, we get a feud now between Raquel and Nikki, which will keep the two of them busy while Vecker goes off to face whoever she is going to face for the Rumble in preparation for the Rumble.
Yeah, and I think, like, I gotta be honest with you, it's gotta be Liv, right? Like,
Might be Roxanne first.
right, but I think Liv's gotta win the Royal Rumble.
If not the Rumble, then the Elimination Chamber, whichever one the Raw side needs to get to the, unless they give us a curveball of some sort. I think that it's got to be because we think Bianca, if she returns, is probably going to be the other winner. But
Very likely, yeah. But
I think
it
Liv
just,
is probably the smart bet, unless they can find a way to finagle Julia into that spot.
yeah, I think it makes so much sense with the story they're telling for it to be Liv. Yeah, and I agree with you. I think Roxanne will have her match with Stephanie eventually, maybe at the Royal Rumble. Um, but yeah, it needs to be Liv. It absolutely needs to be Liv, and I think Liv needs to beat her. Honestly,
Yeah.
like I think Liv should beat her at WrestleMania. Maybe they have a series and they trade the title back and forth a couple of times, and Stephanie can win it back at SummerSlam or something like that. But while I initially thought Stephanie and Rhea was the match, I mean, I guess you could still get there, but Rhea is involved in so much other crap right now that I don't want them to just rush through all of that because I still want the singles match with Rhea and Asuka, and I still want the singles match eventually between Rhea and Io again.
Yep.
Like I want all of those things. So you've got plenty to do with Rhea. So I don't necessarily think it needs to be Rhea yet.
I I think we're getting Rhea and Asuka on Monday. I
Oh, maybe
think they
I,
announced that.
I might have missed that.
No, it was. I
They're
think it was
doing
just announced in passing.
they're doing an 8 woman tag on SmackDown this Friday, and I think they're both
Yeah,
in it.
I think because Rhea made a comment backstage that she had that the only way that Asuka and the Kabuki Warriors have won is by basically playing cheap, and that Asuka's ass was basically hers on Monday.
Yeah, and there was a segment where they all came to the ring and they all just kind of, beat the crap out of one another. Rhea, the Kabuki Warriors were the first ones out initially, and they were talking about, the usual just segments that they say. And, Asuka continues to just bully Kyrie, which is excellent. And this obviously caused Rhea's music to hit, and then EO as well to ultimately allow the faces to stand tall at the end of the segment. But to your point, I think that this match that they're going to have on SmackDown between all of these women is going to be fantastic. But we do eventually need to get like probably a PLE singles match between these two women with some kind of stipulation on the line.
Yeah. Speaking of stipulations off topic real quick, did you hear that maybe finally Damian Priest, Aleister Black on Friday might be over? They
Thank
announced an
God.
ambulance match.
Thank God.
I figured you'd enjoy that.
Yeah. We also saw Gunther backstage in another interview segment with Jackie Redmond, to which, he responded to some of the criticism, basically, again, stating that he made John Cena tap out, which R-Truth interrupted. And R-Truth whispered something funny in his ear, which we didn't get to hear, but it did lead to a match between the two of them, to which Gunther beat him with relative ease. I mean, R-Truth got a couple of moves in, to make it seem moderately competitive, but I mean, Gunther obviously wasn't going to lose this match, so and it was fine. It was a way to get them both on TV, and I'm perfectly okay with it. But the only thing I will say is, while I'm perfectly okay with it from Gunther's side, I don't know how much I feel about what the hell they're doing with R-Truth. Because you initially had him be like a complete, when he came back and he was Ron Killings and he was a serious character, and now he's just completely back to goofball again. And
I
I don't know if I understand that. I mean, I also don't care that much, but it just seems a little counterproductive. Maybe I'm looking into it
I,
too much, but I don't know. What do you think?
I think that Paul Levesque and WWE figured out that nobody really wants a super serious R-Truth. The guy is over for when he does things like I Believe in Joe Pesci and hides in a bunny suit and goofy shenanigans like that. Um, I just had a thought though in regards to Gunther and his Legend Killer retirement tour. What if he retires R-Truth too?
Probably will.
Just another fan favorite person who, yeah, I mean, he's not as serious as a lot of these other guys, but maybe that's another reason they brought him back is he's a perfect person to be retired by Gunther.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's going to happen for a while, but I could see it happening eventually. I think because I think Truth signed like a 2-year deal, but I mean, maybe at the end of that deal, he is like 47 years old or something like that.
Yeah,
So yeah, no, that's fair. I could see it. Um, and we also saw Austin Theory and Rey Mysterio have a match as well, which ended via disqualification after interference by Logan Paul, but it did see a returning Penta, to which, we'll very likely see a bit more going on there. But it's cool to see Penta back, and I'm glad that the shoulder thing wasn't as big a deal as everyone kind of thought it was going to be. And it was really interesting. One of the things I wanted to note about this whole set, because it was a relatively nothing quick match between Theory and Rey Mysterio, but the one thing I did want to note, like seeing Penta next to Rey Mysterio, Penta's jacked.
oh
Like,
yeah.
Penta's like you can never really tell when he's in the rings with other guys, but like put him next to Rey Mysterio, and dude, he is jacked.
I mean, that's not really saying a whole lot because you could put you and I next to Rey Mysterio and he would still look like a third grader. But I think the fact that, first of all, shout out to Austin Theory going back to the trunks instead of those goofy pants he was wearing last week.
Yeah.
But good match overall. I mean, pretty much what you would have expected out of a Ray versus what we know Austin Theory does.
Mhm.
Um, and of course, Logan Paul interfering. I do like that he ended up taking the 619. He didn't stand tall again by running away.
Yep.
And the fact that Penta is back, it's what I alluded to earlier when we were talking about the vision. It makes me real interested if this is where we're going to see Phoenix show up too. And we're going to get Ray, Penta, and Phoenix, and maybe Dragon Lee versus the Vision for a little while.
That could be
Just
fun.
get I agree. I think that it'll be incredibly entertaining. And I feel like it's a missed opportunity to at least not utilize this to bring in Phoenix. Even if you're not going to have them win like a title or something, getting to see the two of them together, I think will whet the fans' appetite for seeing them actually compete in the tag team division.
And I could honestly see most or all of them helping Punk next week
Yep.
if the rest of the division gets involved.
Oh, yeah. I mean, considering that Ray has already said that he has Punk's back regardless, because Punk has had his back, I fully expect this to be WrestleMania, Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns level of shenanigans.
Yeah, probably.
Probably
I
not
mean,
as big of names as some of those guys, but I think you're going to see a lot of run-ins. I mean, hell, maybe we'll see a returning LA Knight.
yeah, yeah, maybe. But yeah, it should be. It's going to be great. I bet they're going to give it a ton of time. They'll probably give it like 45 minutes to an hour on Monday for that, because I mean, Punk can go a long match, and Breaker's got obviously he's got the endurance as well. So, but yeah, I have no doubt it's going to be interesting. There has to be it is 100% not going to end clean this match. Like, there's no way.
Honestly, I'm kind of sad we're getting SmackDown and not this Raw here in Buffalo.
Yeah, yeah, that's
This
true.
Raw would have been incredible to go to.
Yeah. So the only other thing to note is we did have Maxine come to the ring to tell the crowd she had a great holiday, thanking the fans for their support. To which Becky Lynch interrupted her speech, and they went on for a little while. And Becky Lynch, denied that she tapped out, and she kept on going on. Oh well, you're a teeny bit better now, Maxine, and you didn't steal anything from me, and just because you trained in a dungeon for a week doesn't mean you're at my level. So we are ultimately going to see these two women in a rematch on next week's show, which good, and I think Maxine needs to win.
Yeah, I really hope that WWE doesn't revert back to Becky as the title holder. I think Maxine's run so far has been great. I think it has done a real good of establishing her as a future star, especially considering what a joke she was considered for the longest time, especially with the male model thing and then basically just being a hanger on to Alpha Academy. I think this has done wonders for her career, and I actually see a really bright future for her.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. She's been one of the very bright spots on Raw as far as the women's division is concerned. I mean, she's been great. Her matches have been so much better than when she was doing the Otis Worm thing and like, just the Alpha Academy nonsense, right? Because those guys are still joke characters. I mean, I love Otis and I love Tozawa, but they're joke characters, and she was a joke character too. And now, she's really coming to her own, and she's actually, looking good in the ring, and that's really all you need. I mean, she's got the Vince McMahon, blonde look, right? But that's kind of irrelevant now in 2025. But I just want to see her wrestle and be able to show, what she can actually do. And she's so far taken the ball and run with it.
Yep.
So, yeah, so that was Monday Night Raw. A lot to unpack there, but overall, I think it was a pretty good show. What are your final thoughts and final rating for the show?
So I give this a TV level 4 out of 5. And I think that it was one of their better Raws, especially I really like the fact that it allows them to close out 2025 on a high note, especially with what a roller coaster this year has been for WWE. I think being able to look to the future coming off of a positive experience will hopefully start the year right.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that, having all this vision stuff going on now and having them be involved in a bunch of different feuds is a great way to go. You want to keep these characters to be the biggest villains on the show, so you kind of have all of your different faces having something to do and having a bunch of heels involved. I think it's a good spot for Logan Paul. I think it's going to be interesting to see what they do with Austin Theory, especially when Seth comes back. Maybe he acts as like a double agent or something like that. Gunther is still great, and he's definitely got final boss villain level materia going on as well, which is cool. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to the match next week. And I think all the stuff with the women's tag team division is awesome. So I would say my final rating for the show is I was on the field with Lamar Jackson out of 5.
That was quite the line.
So with that, we're going to close out the show today. As always, guys, thank you so much for joining us for the podcast. Leave your comments down below. We do read and respond to all of them, and we appreciate all of the support. So with that, have a very happy New Year, guys, and we will catch up with you in 2026. Thanks so much, and take care.